Good evening, and welcome back to Cast with Q. Today we're going to be going over some comic book news, some space news, and a little bit about Pine Sol. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. This is my second podcast. Excited to be here. Hope you guys are excited to be here as well. We're going to start off today with something that's a little older news, but let's just get right into it, shall we? It turns out that Marvel Comics has changed the Punisher's logo. Everybody knows that the Punisher's logo is, as you can see on the screen here, this incredibly tight, super sick skull, the white skull on the black background. Punisher's had many costumes over the comic books. You can see here. There's just iterations of it. You know, the old trench coat look, the tactical look. There's one where it's just the T-shirt. That's a nice picture right there. And then obviously we've got this like kind of stealth look, the old tactical turtleneck look. So sexy. Anyway, Marvel recently changed that. Now, I don't have the article in front of me, but essentially the reasoning was they were trying to essentially take back the Punisher and his logo from, alt-right crazy people, as they like to call them. You know, like cops and, firefighters and guys with king ranches. Yeah, those people. So here you can see the Punisher's brand new logo. It's still a skull. But this time this skull has horns and tusks. So it's, less offensive. In addition to the new logo, the Punisher has now become essentially the top assassin of the Hand, which is a traditionally Asian organization in Marvel comic books, made up of ninjas. There's a lot of magic that goes on, predominantly a Daredevil / Elektra group of people. So, in order to make the Punisher less white supremacist, they made him the leader of some Asians. Yeah. That word really worked out. He doesn't use guns anymore, too, just swords, because that's a much more, it's a much less offensive way of murdering somebody is by using a sword to gut them. As we all know, swords are significantly less violent than guns. So that's why the whole modern world has gone to using guns and doesn't continue to use swords. Anyway, I guess you can kind of tell my opinion about this already. It's stupid. It's just another virtue signaling attempt from these hacks at Marvel to try to make people buy their comic books, it's funny to me because the people that they're making this change for, these people don't buy comic books. As an actual point of fact, today when I was at the boxing gym, I was talking to one of the employees there, and we got into because I was wearing my Symbiote Spider-Man shirt. It's a Symbiote Spider-Man shirt, not a Venom shirt. Okay. Anyway, I was wearing that shirt. And so we started talking about comic books and stuff like that, and it was cool because I don't know a lot of women who like talking about comic books, so it's cool. But we were getting into that conversation, and this is essentially she expressed her jubilation at Harley Quinn becoming a lesbian, because we all know that the only way you can be a strong woman is if you're a lesbian, as you can tell from all the media nowadays. Any strong woman has to either be bisexual or lesbian. Anyway, she thought that was really cool, and I said, "Oh yeah, so like you've been picking up those comics?" And she's like, "Oh no, I just read the articles on the internet." So I guess that's good news, because that means that not a lot of people are going to buy that, and hopefully, although it hasn't been shown to be the case, hopefully when DC sees that nobody's buying that comic book, they'll just go back to doing the things that actually sold comic books that people actually like. And this is hopefully the case with the Punisher as well. Switching, kind of pivoting from the Punisher, but still Marvel here, and still kind of in that theme of Marvel Knights. Recently, Elektra took on the mantle of the Daredevil. We all know Daredevil's not a mantle. Matt Murdock is Daredevil. He is a blind Irish boy, an Irish Catholic boy, and that is Daredevil, the man without fear. His entire character is informed by his Irish Catholic background, as has been shown multiple times by such eminently talented people like Frank Miller, Brian Michael Bendis, who I don't like his political opinions, but there's no doubt in my mind that man, Brian Michael Bendis, is incredibly talented. He's written some of my favorite things that I've ever read. Like all of his Daredevil runs with Alex Maleev and the Ultimate Spider-Man, the original Ultimate Spider-Man, the first, 23, 26 or so issues. So when it was Bendis and Mark Bagley as the illustrator. Love him in his writing because his dialogue is so good. Anyway, switching back over here to Elektra. Elektra, now that Matt Murdock, his identity has been revealed to the public at large and he's been thrown in the clink, Elektra is now Daredevil. This is a classic thing Marvel's doing now. They just take female characters or characters who don't look like, the original versions of the characters, and they put them in these mantles, because for them, every superhero is a mantle. Spider-Man is a mantle, Daredevil's a mantle, Black Panther's a mantle, even though actually Black Panther is a mantle, because it is handed down from father to son. Emphasis on father to son. Captain America is a mantle. We all know Steve Rogers is Captain America, but it seems like the only way that these talentless hacks can try to drum up sales is by demoting people like Falcon, classically black superheroes, demoting them by... And you guys have probably heard this from like Eric D. July, for instance. The guy's brilliant. I agree with the vast majority of things that he says. They essentially legitimize the character of Falcon, Sam Wilson, in the eyes of these activists by putting him in the mantle of a white man, a classically white mantle. That's the only way you can legitimize these characters, because black characters by themselves, they're not legitimate. You have to put them in a white man's mantle, and then they'll be good. Which is funny, because I wonder what would happen. I really do wonder what would happen if we took a white character and made them the Black Panther. Wouldn't really work, would it? No, it wouldn't. Anyway, I keep getting distracted. I will say about Elektra being Daredevil, the costume design is beautiful. I love this costume design. I think it looks super tight. And of all of the characters to replace Daredevil as Daredevil, it actually kind of makes sense for Elektra to do it, because she and Daredevil were trained almost exactly the same by Stick in the same manner, same way. So they have the same skill sets. Daredevil has superpowers, unlike her, but she's been shown to be very effective in her own right. And the costume is sick. The costume is beautiful. Now, I've not read the comics, so I don't know what the character progression of Elektra is as to why she decided to take this mantle. If it's a bad reason, then we all know what the reason is. That essentially the writers wanted to insert a female into the role of Daredevil. Because that sells comic books. But if it's an actual, good character progression for Elektra, then I'm not entirely against it. It does help that the costume is super sick. I love it. Love the scarf. I love how she's got heels. You can see she's got heels, even though she's got the wraps on. It's very cool. It's very ninja. It's very Daredevil. I like it a lot. All right, let's see here. Speaking of, new looks. We've got Punisher's hot new look with that tusked skull. And now we're going to go back to the old hot look with She-Hulk here. I suspect that it's due to the trailer that came out for the She-Hulk TV show, which is going to be coming out on Disney+, if that excites you at all. I personally, the moment Gina Carano was fired for saying entirely true statements, I essentially said, you know what, I'm done supporting Disney. I'm done giving them my money so that they can tell actual strong, independent women to get screwed, essentially, is what they did to her. They took a woman who has an opinion that is her own, and she expressed it in a very respectful and respectable manner. And because it wasn't the agenda, the message that Disney wants to portray, they got rid of her. This is what happens. This is what happens when these crazy leftists and these activists do this. What they do is they just get rid of you. They just obliterate the story entirely. So it's like you never even existed. They did that in the Soviet Union. They've done that routinely across. They did it in Nazi Germany as well. Because if you actually pay attention, National Socialism is socialism. It looks slightly different than communism, but it amounts to the exact same thing. The worship of the state. So anyway, I got distracted again. We can see this. I just have one snapshot of this She-Hulk picture, and you can tell she looks good. She looks attractive. She looks like attractive She-Hulk. As you can see, these are the old pictures of attractive She-Hulk from the comic books. Here's John Byrne's classic, John Byrne, the Sensational She-Hulk. That run is amazing. I would highly recommend it to anybody who wants to have just a fun, good time and read about She-Hulk. She-Hulk is a derivative character. She's derivative of the Hulk. And a lot of times I get really disinterested in characters that are derivatives of other characters because it's kind of lazy. At the same time, She-Hulk is not even remotely close to the Hulk as a character. At least when the Hulk was really the Hulk and not, Professor Hulk. I don't like Professor Hulk. I'll say that Immortal Hulk really went back to basics for the Hulk. It really brought the Hulk back to how he should be. Maybe he's not the raging green machine that we all remember, but at the same time, now he is this. It's this like terrifying force of nature that comes. In the Immortal Hulk, it's when nighttime comes, the Hulk essentially wakes up and takes over Banner's body, or when Banner is killed, because Banner doesn't just get hurt and turn into the Hulk like you see in a lot of comic books and in the movies and things. No, he literally, in the first issue, he gets his brains blown out, and he's in the morgue until nighttime when he turns into Hulk. Anyway, that's what the Hulk should be. And they did a good job in Immortal Hulk. There's some propaganda in it later, like issue 30 or something. I got pretty far in it before I noticed any propaganda, but there is. And you got to wonder sometimes if that's not just the artist or the writer just trying to protect his job. But anyway, because he's a good writer. Forgot who did it, but it's good writing. Anyway, She-Hulk is different from the Hulk in that she actually retains her entire personality. Jennifer Walters is still Jennifer Walters. She just now has the body of the She-Hulk. And she enjoys that. She enjoys being a sexy, tall, green goddess. Everybody, it's a good example of like an opposite to Hulk. Hulk hates that he turns into the Hulk, and she, on the other hand, loves it. She loves the attention. She loves that everybody thinks she's attractive. She loves dressing up. And I, for one, like seeing a woman who likes being feminine in comic books. And that's the way She-Hulk has historically been portrayed. Recently, the activists got their hands on her and turned her into this monstrosity. Good Lord. Let's get another picture. Yeah, the immortal She-Hulk. Obviously, banking off of the success of... It's Al Ewing. Yeah, Al Ewing was the writer for the Immortal Hulk. Obviously, they're banking off the success of the original Immortal Hulk comic book. So instead of creating another interesting storyline for She-Hulk where she can be her own character, they're like, oh, you know what we're gonna do? Immortal Hulk sold comic books. We're just going to change her to be exactly like that, except like gross looking. She looks gross. And that's my opinion. You don't have to have that opinion. You could be attracted to that. I'm not. And I would hazard a guess to say that most male comic book readers are not, they don't find that attractive. And you might, well, why do you need to find the character attractive? So I can buy your book, yo. Like, do you want me to buy your book or not? It's up to you. Obviously, Marvel these days and DC doesn't really want us to buy the book. Which is why I'm very excited for things like the Rippaverse and any other indie things that come out. You can see in the back there, I've got SHADOWMAN. I love SHADOWMAN. That's a return. I never read the original SHADOWMAN comic books. I've been trying to get my hands on the game, but my PC sucks, so I'll need to kind of wait till it becomes till they've got the remastered version on the Xbox. But SHADOWMAN is tight, and these issues that have come out recently are very cool. The art is beautiful, the writing is fun and engaging, the story is interesting. I can't wait to see where it goes next from here. And you look at that cover. Wow-wee. The art is beautiful. Anyway, really excited for indie comic books. One of the reviews of comic books I'll be doing is going to be the She-Hulk Ceremony, Part 1 and 2. This is another one where the art is just off the chain. I love the art in this comic. I love the way they draw Thing. I love the way they draw... I like John Byrne's She-Hulk the best of all of them. But the textures of color in this and some of the vistas that you see in this two-parter are just unbelievable. And I can't wait to show that, guys. I just can't wait to show that to you guys. So yeah. But we're seeing now that it appears that this ugly, like, stupid version of She-Hulk is now going to be replaced with classically cool, smart, attractive She-Hulk. And that's very exciting. I used to not like She-Hulk at all, and I'll tell you why. Because when I was a kid, I found out that She-Hulk, for a time, replaced the Thing on the Fantastic Four. And that, to me, was unacceptable. How can you replace the Thing? Nobody can replace the Thing. Well, you can't, but if you read the John Byrne run of the Fantastic Four, which is second only to Lee and Kirby. I know a lot of people talk about Jonathan Hickman. We'll get into Jonathan Hickman. His dialogue is just atrocious, especially for children. He does not know how to write children. And I can't really blame him. You know, they're very difficult to write. But I kind of can blame him because people like John Byrne have been getting it right for years. So, but anyway, in John Byrne's run of the Fantastic Four, after Secret Wars, and Thing kind of hangs out in space for a bit because he still feels like he's a monster and nobody likes him, so he's going to hang out in space. She-Hulk joins the team for a short period of time, and it's actually really enjoyable. I like She-Hulk. His run made me like She-Hulk and made me not be like mad at her for replacing the Thing. So yeah, at this point, moving on here, Spider-Man No Way Home has made a god-awful amount of money. And I say that in a happy sense. I love that movie. It's got its flaws. There's no doubt about it. It's got its plot holes. It's got its, things that had to happen for the story to continue. And I, generally speaking, don't like those, and I'll point them out. In this situation, I won't, and here's why. I went to Black Widow, and I watched that movie. And for me, the Black Widow has always been my favorite Avenger. To me, the Avengers have always been C-listers. I know that's going to maybe make some people mad, but the Avengers classically were C-listers. People like Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four were the A-listers. They were the top dogs in the Marvel Universe. At least to me. You don't have to agree with me. It doesn't matter. It's just an opinion. But I always thought that the Avengers were kind of lame. The movies came out, and the movies are great, and I love it. And I love the fact that superheroes became successful and were not looked upon as, something ridiculous anymore. Um, so there's usually points where I'll point out things with the movies that are. But for Spider-Man, I was just happy to see. I'm sorry, going back, Black Widow. I keep getting distracted. Black Widow was an atrocious movie. It was an embarrassment. One, that movie had nothing to do with Black Widow. That was not the character of Black Widow. You know what it was? Is it reminded me of like a CW version of Black Widow. Her costume looked. Let me put it like this. Black Widow in Iron Man 2 was through and through Black Widow. The very start. In this movie was just like a generic action film starring a female actress. I love Scarlett Johansson. I don't like her politics, but I love her as an actress. I think she's incredibly beautiful, incredibly talented. She has a voice that like sends a shiver down your spine, not unlike Emma Stone. But this movie wasn't about Black Widow. Black Widow is a femme fatale. She's a spy. She kills people. She lies to people. She manipulates men to get what she wants from them because that's her character. You know, you don't have to like it. You don't have to like that character if you don't want to, but I do. I like seeing Black Widow in a red sequins dress at a fancy ball, with a fake name trying to get information out of people. I love that. I think that's awesome. I wanted to see an R-rated film where Black Widow, it's full of guns, action, subterfuge, twists and turns and lies, and I wanted to see a spy movie on crack. That's what a Black Widow movie should be like. A spy movie with superheroes. But that movie was just the most generic, boring, uninteresting excuse for a Black Widow film that I've ever seen in my life. It doesn't do the movie any favors that it came out chronologically at an inappropriate time for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It doesn't help it at all. It's obvious to me that Captain Marvel kind of took this movie's spot. When this movie should have existed, Captain Marvel took the spot. And that was so that they could force Captain Marvel into Infinity War and Endgame to make her, to artificially make her important. She serves no purpose in those movies other than for those scenes where she literally single-handedly trounces Thanos. He gets a lucky hit on her, but did we even really need the Avengers that whole movie? We just could have used Captain Marvel. She's just so powerful already. So it was this artificial injection of this character who really nobody gives a shit about. Nobody cares about Captain Marvel. I know there's people that, yes, I do. I care about Captain Marvel. Then why do all of her comic books fail? Why is her movie now being renamed to The Marvels instead of Captain Marvel? Because she can't sell a movie by herself. Because nobody cares. Civil War 2, if I'm not mistaken, was a failure. So anyway, Marvel has been releasing these post-Endgame. Marvel has been releasing essentially, for the most part, propaganda-infused garbage. And it's not garbage just because it's got propaganda in it. Like, for instance, the scene in Captain America, or not, I keep saying Captain America, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. When Falcon and Winter Soldier are arguing on the street, and those cops pull up and they ask Winter Soldier, "Is there a problem here, sir? You have a problem with this gentleman?" First of all, it doesn't make any sense within the scope and the context of the story you're trying to tell. You're trying to tell me that these cops, who know very well that Falcon from the Avengers helped save half of the fucking universe, you're telling me that they don't recognize him? I call bullshit. That's just an example. That's just like a love letter to BLM right there. That's like, oh yes, we bend the knee to you, BLM. Like this show. Make this show an approved show. Anyway, that's what Marvel's been pumping out in these past years, and I'm sick of it. And apparently, so are the Japanese, because Sony released a movie called Spider-Man No Way Home that blew all of that out of the water. Within a week, No Way Home had made, if I'm not mistaken, more money than every other Marvel movie released post-Endgame combined. Now, I might be wrong on that, but at least at this point, I'm fairly certain that is the case. Spider-Man No Way Home is a resounding success, not only for comic book movies coming back after COVID and all the weirdness surrounding all of that, but also for non-wokeness. It's a resounding success for non-wokeness in TV shows and movies, because people went to that movie to go see Tobey Maguire and Spider-Man. With the same person. Well, they wanted to go see a Spider-Man movie, but I think that Tobey Maguire being in it is really what got a lot of people, especially in the older age bracket, to be like, you know what, yeah, I'll give this one a shot. And let's not forget the superb performances of the actors in this film. We're going to start with my favorite, because this is all I cared about going into the movie. All I cared about going into Spider-Man No Way Home was, did they do my boy Green Goblin justice? The Green Goblin is my favorite supervillain of all time, hands down. I say hands down, but Doctor Doom comes real close. It's a toss-up betwixt the two of them. But Green Goblin is, you better do him right for me to be happy. And boy, oh boy, Willem Dafoe knocked it out of the ballpark yet again, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, he's just a superb actor in his own right. And secondly, you could tell in this film that he really, really cares. Maybe selectively as an actor, that he just cares about each of his roles and wants them to be realistic and to make sense, and for the audience to recognize that character just from his performance alone. Maybe it's just a point of professional pride for him. I don't know. I think he likes the character. It seems to me that he really loves the character of Green Goblin. I mean, if we go back to the first movie, the Sam Raimi movie, back from, was it 2002? When he was hired, I mean, he was like the only person that they really looked at for the role. And when he was hired, he had a few demands, if you will. One of them being that the penthouse apartment that Norman lives in, he was the one who decided what was going to be in it, what was going to decorate it. So he was the one who brought all those tribal masks in and had those put up. That was his idea for the character, because it wasn't enough for him that he was given a script and told, this is what the character thinks and this is his idea, and then an act off of that. It wasn't enough for him. He really drilled into the role to put into place all of these things that inform his character at all times and help him stay grounded in the role and be Norman Osborn. And it's not easy when you're not, because he wasn't playing just one role. He didn't do it in that first movie, and he didn't do it in No Way Home either. He's playing two separate roles, Norman Osborn and the Green Goblin. And they're two distinctly different people. There was a video by, what's his name? I'm sorry to whoever this is. There was a video by this gentleman recently, though, that really made that point. That he, even when he changes, when he goes from Norman to Goblin, his range, his pitch of his tone drops considerably. He's up here for Norman, and then he gets down here for Goblin, and it's very distinct, and it makes you, without even looking at the screen, know that there's an entirely different person talking now. So yeah, his performance was just unbelievable. It's amazing, and here's some spoilers here, so just so you guys know, it's really cool too that he was able to kill Aunt May with the glider. I liked that a lot. I did. One because, and some people are probably gonna hate me for this, but I don't like Aunt May. Like, if we're talking 60s Lee Ditko, and doddering old Aunt May, and, Peter's living with her and trying to, that's okay. Okay, that's one piece of the Spider-Man story, and there's a point where Spider-Man's just got to move on, you know, and you could continue to have Aunt May alive and around in that, but why distract? Why distract from what's really important, Peter Parker? Some people complain that Aunt May was the one who said, with great power comes great responsibility. I nearly choked up with tears when she said that, so I don't feel that way. Sorry, a bit of a snafu there. My camera turned off. I hope it wasn't too much. Doesn't matter. You guys don't probably want to look at me anyway. But anyway, Green Goblin was so beautiful in that. And then when Tobey catches the glider, when Tom is about to finish him, kill him with the glider. Literally, it's so cool because it's the callback, but it's not the callback. In the first movie, Goblin tries to use the glider to kill Spider-Man. And instead, Spider-Man jumps over it. And then I realized after watching this movie that at that instant, Goblin's like, oh, well, screw this, and reverts back to Norman. He lets Norman take that pain. And that's why Norman goes, oh, because he's like, what just oh, I'm confused. And then he gets hit. One of the greatest scenes. It's probably the best ending scene to any superhero film ever, if you ask me. Fight scene. Any ending fight. That fight scene between Goblin and Spider-Man and Spider-Man 1 is the best one. It's my favorite one that I've ever seen. But the fact that Tom grabs the glider and then tries to kill him with it is a cool callback. But then the fact that Tobey comes in there and without even a word just grabs it and looks at him. That almost brought me to tears too. A great wraparound for the character. Great wrap up for the character of Tobey's Spider-Man. And of course we can't forget the character who stole the show, the actor who stole the show, Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. The amazing Spider-Man. No, you're amazing. You're amazing. He's so great. He was so great in that film. It's like every single line of dialogue that they gave him, he took and worked and put 15 different emotions and thoughts and feelings into it so that everything that he said was just full of meaning. You see him save MJ at the end, and he's like, are you okay? And she's like, are you okay? And he's like trying to hold back the emotions that go through his face in that moment, that he finally redeemed himself for failing Gwen Stacy. A lesser actor wouldn't have been able to pull it off, but Andrew Garfield is not a lesser actor. I'm actually, at this point, I want to see Amazing Spider-Man 3. I hated Amazing Spider-Man 2 because they raped the character of Green Goblin, and the death of Gwen Stacy was a little... Let me put it like this. In Amazing Spider-Man 2, Gwen Stacy's death was really her own fault. Spider-Man told her multiple times, don't come here. Don't. He webbed her to the car. I mean, what else can you do? And yet she still arrived, and then she still died. It's kind of her fault. Kind of takes away the... It doesn't, because, you could see that he still felt guilty that he didn't save her. But in the comics, it's a little heavier because Spider-Man is pulling her up after he's webbed her, and you as the reader saw the panel where her body literally snaps, and it says snap, and as the reader, oh God, it's not looking good. And he's pulling her up, and he's like, "You're so lucky, Gwen, that you've got not just a handsome, intelligent boyfriend, but the Amazing Spider-Man too with all this power." And then he pulls her up, and he realizes that his web line killed her. It was his fault. He got cocky. And that's a little bit more powerful to me than The Amazing Spider-Man 2. But it's over. It's old news. And just seeing Andrew get his due as the actor that he is, very nice. So in regards to these garbage movies that have come out recently, I'm going to name them. The Black Widow, the biggest disappointment for me because I really love Black Widow. Shang-Chi and The Legend of the Ten Rings. And The Eternals, which nobody ever cared about, nobody ever wanted. And especially when you take them from Jack Kirby's visionary style and visionary, just the way that he made them look. The way Jack Kirby drew everything was visionary. It changed the landscape of comic books forever. And to take all of his brilliant, colorful, bombastic artwork and reduce it to this, I mean, just the trailer itself made me uninterested in it. I knew who the Eternals were, but after seeing the trailer, was like, I don't care. This isn't Jack Kirby's Eternals. This is the Marvel Cinematic Universe's attempt at I don't even know what it was an attempt at. I guess a giant blockbuster, another Endgame, another Avengers. But no. I haven't watched the movie because I value my time. However, in regards to not watching the movies that I will talk about, I had a bit of a altercation with my brother at Christmas. My brother stated to me that Shang-Chi was a good movie. And that kind of surprised me because my brother, generally speaking, has good taste in movies. So I was a little confused. I started going off about, the reason Shang-Chi exists. And the reason Shang-Chi exists was so that we could have an Asian superhero. That's why. Because Shang-Chi is a loser character. He's like a D-lister. Nobody gave a shit about Shang-Chi until this movie came out. And now you have all these armchair people who, they Googled Shang-Chi. Oh, he's in this in the comics, and this and that, and this and that, and... You know what would have been ballsy if they had made the Shang-Chi movie and made his villain Fu Manchu like he is in the comic books. That would have been ballsy. If they'd made it like a real martial arts movie. But I've seen the action in that movie, and it is, well, it's boring. It's just boring, Marvel used to have some mean, hard-hitting action, like with the beginning of Captain America: Winter Soldier, when he's literally snapping people's spines by kicking them into the sides of boats. I mean, come on. Black Widow takes a wrench to some guy's head. That guy is dead, okay? He got killed by a wrench. Anyway, we got into this argument. My brother said to me, he says, you don't really have a leg to stand on because you haven't seen the movie, so why are you talking about it? He's got a strong point. On my third podcast, I will have, unfortunately, probably, watched Shang-Chi, and I will be able to talk to you guys about if it's good or not. But I can't talk about it now because I didn't watch it. A movie I did watch was Kong v. Godzilla. Godzilla vs. Kong? King Kong vs. Godzilla? I don't know. The movie where they fight each other. There's been some debate on the internet about who actually won that fight. To be honest with you, I have no idea if there's been debate about it on the internet because I don't have social media. But I'm going to pretend like there is, that this bit works. Anyway, I am of the opinion that Godzilla, manhandled King Kong. He clobbered him, but good. King Kong, they had to fit pieces of him in a matchbox after Godzilla was done with him. He made mincemeat out of him. That's really all I wanted to say, is that Godzilla distinctively won that. I mean, the first fight's not fair, obviously, because it's in water, and Godzilla has a distinct advantage in water because he can breathe water, if I'm not mistaken. But the second fight, when they're on land and on those buildings and everything, Kong had the advantage, and he still lost. So, and then you have Godzilla facing off against Robo-Godzilla by himself for a long period of time, while King Kong is like dazed. He's got the canaries going around his head. My favorite part of this movie was all of the looks that they gave each other. You wouldn't expect it from a giant lizard monster, but Godzilla has these mean looks that he shoots over at King Kong so many times throughout the movie. So many times. It's so great every time seeing that look that he gives him. Like, here's one right there. Look at that. He's like, yeah, you son of a bitch. I've got you right where I want you. And then this one right here. Look at that look he's got. He's like, oh man, I love it. It was very cool. It was a very enjoyable movie. It wasn't the greatest movie of all time. It had some boring plot lines, like for instance the one with the conspiracy theorist guy. As somebody who studies quote unquote conspiracy theories, it's obvious to me that term and that type of person, that archetype of character, is used as like a comedic backdrop for other characters in a movie. They use the conspiracy theorist as a somebody to like bounce jokes off of, to make fun of, to make seem ridiculous. And that makes sense in regards to Hollywood, because conspiracy theorists at their core are just people who don't agree with the accepted paradigms, the accepted ideologies or beliefs. And there's a lot of people out there, like, everybody shits on flat earthers. I like to listen to their opinion. I don't agree with it. I think it's stupid. But, you should at least listen to people. Unfortunately for flat earthers, it's demonstrable that the earth is not, at least it's not flat. I know there's some people like, well, it's a bit curved. It's domed. It's not flat, but it's still like, there's nothing on the edges. I don't know, man. I don't know. And then the whole idea of the sun and the moon being held up by balloons. Don't know that I can get behind that. But anyway, the character, the conspiracy theorist character played by Paperboy, I forgot the actor's name. He was in Eternals as well. But he really stands out as an actor in Atlanta, season 1 and 2. I wonder when the third season's coming out. Atlanta is a tight show. That show is very good. Not for the faint of heart. Not for the faint of heart. But I love that show. And, Donald Glover is one of the most talented people alive today. Yeah, I forgot what the actor's name is, but Paperboy plays that conspiracy theorist. And I just don't buy that actor in goofy roles. I just don't buy it. He's just more of an upfront, serious guy. And when he plays those goofy roles, it's like, I don't know. It diminishes him in my eyes as an actor. I don't know what it is. It's very strange. Anyway, the movie was pretty good. Don't like the conspiracy theory plot lines, but whatever. Actually, I was really surprised, too, that they leaned into the hollow earth theory thing. That's the one you don't see talked about a lot. And when we talk about, like, if you guys are aware of the concept of drip feed propaganda, where Hollywood will essentially tell you truths in a very slow manner, while also not telling you, like as an example, in Hollywood and in TV shows and anywhere, you have this consistent, persistent portrayal, especially when it comes to things like aliens or things like that the government is not to be trusted, that they have all the secrets to this. I've seen in recent things that that the government should be trusted with this secret information. That in fact it's better for society that most people don't know about these things because most people don't have a right to, or they're not intelligent enough to understand, or the whole world. Anyway, I just don't agree with that. All right, well, moving on to simply hands down the greatest cleaning material of all time, Pine Sol. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't get paid anything by Pine Sol to say this to you, but I just want to let you know that Pine Sol is absolutely fantastic. It really does clean all the surfaces in your home that you put it on, and it leaves them smelling absolutely gorgeous and beautiful. I've been known to just open up my Pine Sol bottle and take a large, deep whiff from time to time. Really gets the sinuses cleared and gets you thinking straight. So anyway, yeah. Moving on from Pine Sol. Here's a story. Here's a cool story. Let me bring up the internet so I can read it to you guys. But the Russian Space Administration, I don't know exactly what they're called, I'll have to look it up. They recently discovered Water. On the red planet, planet Mars. So let's try to bring this article up here. Sorry. Come on. My computer's so slow. Anyway, this is being reported on by the European Space Agency at the ESA.int. ExoMars discovers hidden water in Mars's Grand Canyon. The water, which is hidden beneath Mars's surface, was founded by the Trace Gas Orbiter, TGO's FRIEND instrument, which is mapping the hydrogen, a measure of water content, in the uppermost meter of Mars's soil. While water is known to exist on Mars, most is found in the planet's cold polar regions as ice. Water ice is not found exposed at the surface near the equator, as temperatures here are not cold enough for exposed water ice to be stable. Missions including ESA's Mars Express have hunted for near-surface water as ice-covering dust grains in the soil are locked up in minerals at lower altitudes of Mars and found small amounts. However, such studies have only explored the very surface of the planet. Deeper water stores could exist, covered by dust. So we've got this fella from the Space Research Institute of the Russian Academy of Sciences by the name of Yegor Mitrofanov. It may be Igor, but I have a suspicion that's Yegor. With TGO, we can look down to 1 meter below this dusty layer and see what's really going on below Mars' surface, and crucially locate water-rich oases that couldn't be detected with previous instruments, he says. FRIEND, which is the Fine-Resolution Epithermal Neutron Detector neutron telescope, revealed an area with an unusually large amount of hydrogen in the colossal Valles Marineris Canyon system. Assuming the hydrogen we see is bound into water molecules, as much as 40% of the near-surface material in this region appears to be water. The water-rich area is about the size of the Netherlands and overlaps with the deep valleys of Candor Chaos, part of the canyon system considered promising in our hunt for water on Mars. Now, this is it's an interesting article to me. Whenever I see mainstream media or accepted outlets of media reporting on things that I've known about for a long time, it's not just me who knows, I know about this. I've learned about it from other people. So it's not like I'm the one coming up with these ideas. I'm just one of the people talking about them. So water on Mars, ridiculous. Well, not so ridiculous as it might seem. There's a particular YouTuber by the name of The Real Jimmy Roberts 1. I cannot recommend this gentleman highly enough to anybody who's interested in exploring what could possibly be on Mars. The general idea behind this gentleman's podcast is that he takes NASA rover photos, which are incredibly high definition. And essentially what he does is he removes the red mask that NASA puts on them, and he adds depth, and sometimes he adds color to certain things and to certain items. When he engages in this process of essentially editing these photos, what you begin to see is that Mars is not in fact a dead planet, or wasn't always, at the very least. You begin to notice that there's many different types of metallic debris strewn about the Mars wasteland. And in some of these videos, he even shows, he color corrects pictures to show that there's actual streams, rivers, running along Mars's surface. This might sound completely and utterly fantastic to people, but it's very hard to unsee after you've seen it. This concept of Mars actually being habitable to humans already is one that is not accepted by mainstream media, NASA, people like that. But at the same time, NASA was founded by Nazis during Operation Paperclip, so... And we're going to talk about that in depth at a certain point here. But I don't think that it's within the best interest of the Nazi founders of NASA, as we'll call it, to essentially tell the truth to the American people at the very least, and let alone the rest of the world. Knowledge of this magnitude, of this information, of, say, the origin of our species. Maybe we originated on Mars, and they already know about that because they have pictures of any number of things that can be found on Mars. Which, when you watch this gentleman's videos, The Real Jimmy Roberts 1, you can see that, well, you have to make a decision for yourself. Either NASA is so incredibly incompetent that they can't seem to figure this out for themselves, or they're actively obfuscating the truth. Of course, I can't convince you of that. You need to go look at it yourself and see what you think about that. But again, I highly recommend this gentleman, The Real Jimmy Roberts 1. Go check out his YouTube videos and see for yourself. See for yourself what you think about Mars. So yeah. We're going to wrap up here. I will say that I'm going to be doing some reviews. I'll do a review on a book of your guys' choice. So the one person who comments on this video, I'm going to read the book that you comment on. But we've got some choices here. We've got Other Planets by Emanuel Swedenborg. Short synopsis. This gentleman was a theologian back during, I think, the 1700s. And he has these fantastic accounts of what I would describe as remote viewing. He describes it in less scientific terms. But what essentially he's saying is that he goes into a state of meditation while sitting in a spot on planet Earth, and then his soul or his mind leaves his body, and he's accompanied by angels and spirits and such, and travels throughout our solar system to different planets and sees the inhabitants of said planets. And it's very spiritual, transcendent, and religious in its I wouldn't say religious, but it certainly is more it leans more into spiritualism and transcendentalism than it does into nuts and bolts UFO stuff. But at the same time, if you're into nuts and bolts UFO stuff and you hear the things that he says in this, a lot of things might stand out to you. So that's a quick synopsis of that. The Gods of Eden by William Bramley. This gentleman is of the opinion that the entirety of the human species and our history has consistently been affected by, what does he call them? Gosh, it's escaping me. I read it just like 2 months ago, and now it's escaping me. He is of the opinion that there is a race of extraterrestrial beings, maybe multiple, that have been essentially using the human species, as slaves. Spiritual slaves, physical slaves, and so yeah, that's a very interesting ideology. He touches on the Anunnaki. He touches on the Brotherhood of the Snake. He touches on he doesn't have a very positive opinion of most religions, is what I would say. But it's a very interesting read. And, he makes some good points in it, too. Then we have Flying Saucers Have Landed by George Adamski with help from Desmond Leslie. This book came out in, the early 50s, and I know a lot of people have done a lot of discrediting of George Adamski and the statements that he made and the things that he said. I will say, personally, that of the large plethora of material I have read in regards to aliens and essentially the phenomena that's occurring in our skies, this one, for whatever reason, stands out to me as being one of the most realistic. I don't know how else to... Essentially, this the synopsis of this book is that George Adamski comes into contact with a Venusian flying saucer. Yeah. And the beings therein. And they essentially take him aboard their craft. I mean, that's probably the second book. This one is where they just have conversations with him describing what life is like on other planets. And they show him these things through essentially telepathy. And I've got theories about how telepathy works as well. But this one's a fascinating book. And then there's another one that he came out with after that, which I think is called Inside the Flying Saucers. If I'm not mistaken, that's the title of it. And that's where he purportedly gets taken aboard one of these cigar-shaped flying craft and gets to essentially experience the culture of the beings therein. Believe it or not, you don't have to. I just find it pretty believable. And then last but certainly not least, we have The Morning of the Magicians by Louis Powell and Jacques Berger. If I mess those names up, it's because I don't speak French. Only a bit of Russian. Вы говорите по-русски тоже? Anyway, Morning of the Magicians. This is a book that has like a shotgun approach to what it's trying to do. This book is essentially at its core trying to convince you of one concept, and that is that we experience all this fantastic, we have all these fantastic stories and traditions in our history of, gods and angels and telepathy, remote viewing, spirits, demons, all this stuff that we find to be fantastic and unreal. These authors try to make the point that it is in our best interest to treat this fantastic stuff with realism. Essentially, they're trying to make the point that fantastic realism is the way we should go about living our life and thinking about the world around us. That the things that we perceive as being transcendental or and fake because of that, we should look at them with a little bit more wisdom and try to understand what all these things mean in the scope of human history. They go over things like alchemy. They go over things like the Nazi belief in the eternal ice theory, which is a fascinating thing nobody talks about now. Why did the Nazis do what they did? Why did the Nazi people? What motivated them to such a degree that they would engage in the activities they engaged in during World War II? Why would so many people who are, supposedly like you and I, we're not too much different than regular people, why would they somehow be convinced to engage in what they did during World War II? A fascinating book. That one right there, Morning of the Magicians, that'll open your mind. It'll open your mind if you really sit down and put the time and effort into reading it. Anyway, that's going to be us. That's going to be it for me for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be back eventually with a review of either She-Hulk Ceremony or Daredevil End of Days, or even perchance I sinned. I did a terrible thing the other day. I don't like her politics, but I bought her book. I really shouldn't have. But the thing is that I'm a sucker for Green Goblin, and I saw Osborn on the top, and I was like, give me that. I'll take that. And I got home, and I read DeConnick at the bottom. So I really messed up. But, we'll probably do a review of that, but I cracked it open, and I was already just disgusted with it. But anyway. So yeah, let me know in the comments which book you would like me to do a review on. Stay tuned. I'm going to have some more HeroClix videos out soon. We're going to be going over the Fantastic Four. It's about time. I said that a year ago that I was going to be doing that, and a year has passed. So we're going to finally get around to doing a review of the Fantastic Four HeroClix. I've got my comic book reviews coming out, and the third podcast will be coming out in, I don't know, like a month or so. Maybe sooner. We'll see. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I hope you had a great time. I hope you enjoyed spending this time with me. If you didn't, then you just spent a whole hour with me. You didn't have to do that, but you did. So it's really kind of your own fault. Yeah, I kind of messed that up. For all those people who enjoyed this video, thank you very much. Thank you for your likes and your subscribes if you choose to do that. I really appreciate it. And we will see you next time. Have a great night, and God bless.